Watch this when life doesn't make sense. Let's talk about something that might have crossed your mind before. That moment when you stop, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, is this it? Is this what it means to be an adult? Maybe, like many of us, you grew up imagining that at some point life would start to make more sense, that by the time you hit 30, you'd finally have all the answers, know exactly what to do, how to act, and what to strive for. And then you get to 30 and you still feel like you're navigating without a map, without a guide. You know, this feeling of being lost, of not being the functional adult you envisioned, is more common than you might think. We live in an age where expectations are high, pressure is constant, and the demands, both internal and external, are almost unbearable. But is this idea of a perfect adult, full of certainties and totally in control, even real? Or is it just an ideal we've created, something that no one actually achieves? Adulthood is indeed complex. It requires resilience and a kind of willingness to face challenges we may never have truly prepared for. And it's not just about working, paying bills, staying healthy, and solving problems. It's about finding yourself, understanding yourself, balancing the dreams of who you once were with the limitations of who you've become. This stage of life can feel confusing because it's when we realize that our lives aren't going to start someday. They're already happening, right here, right now, with all the uncertainty and imperfections that come with it. But maybe there's beauty in this chaos. Maybe not having all the answers is what keeps us curious, drives us to keep searching, to discover new things about ourselves and the world. How about embracing this journey, allowing yourself to live with the questions and learn from them? Each of us has our own rhythm, our own timing, and that's what makes our journey unique. When you think about it, the fact that we're all, in some way, trying to figure out how to adult together makes us feel less alone, more connected. 2. Challenges of adult life and survival. Have you ever stopped to think about how adulthood can feel like a real battlefield? Living in the United States, for instance, might seem like a dream from the outside. But for many, the reality is far from simple or glamorous. The life of an average adult is an exhausting routine, especially for those facing the challenges of living with fewer resources. Often, it feels like you're always chasing something that seems out of reach. The bills arrive before the paycheck. The job, which was supposed to be a means of achieving dreams, ends up being a source of endless fatigue. Taking care of your health, as essential as it is, feels like a luxury. And time to focus on what truly matters, friends, family, hobbies, gets postponed for when there's energy left, if that moment ever comes. And maybe you've felt this exhaustion. It's like there's a constant imbalance between what you need and what you can actually achieve. The cost of living, challenges with the healthcare system, the pressure to stay relevant in a competitive job market. It all adds up and gradually drains your energy and sometimes even your hope. But you know what? This challenging scenario also brings out an incredible strength in us, because no matter how hard it is, every day we're here, trying again, building a life, a future, little by little. And this requires a resilience we might not have even realized we had. When life gets tough, that's when we discover an adaptability, a will to keep going that somehow pushes us forward. So if you've ever felt this frustration, know that you're not alone. There's a strength within us that keeps us standing, reminding us of the value of small achievements and the moments that truly matter. And together, we're tackling one challenge at a time, creating our path, even if it's made up of small, steady steps. 3. Critique of the educational system. Imagine this scene. You're at school, learning how to solve equations, memorizing formulas, spending hours upon hours drilling historical dates into your memory. Then, a thought arises. Why are we learning all of this? It's a question that perhaps all of us have asked ourselves at some point. And here lies a deep criticism of the educational system. Does it really prepare us for the lives we will lead after school? Over the years, the educational system has drifted away from practical realities. Somehow, what we're taught in classrooms has grown distant from the experiences we face in the real world. What's missing? We're missing lessons on how to handle difficulties, how to manage our emotions, how to make important decisions and face the consequences of those choices. It seems we're taught everything except how to live, and it's a reality that many only realize too late. So, pause and consider this. What if, from an early age, school taught us about things we'll actually use throughout life? Like managing a budget, handling our time, or even understanding our own feelings. These are skills that can't be learned from books. They need to be lived, practiced, felt. An education limited to teaching only formal subjects will never prepare anyone for the ups and downs of adult life. This doesn't mean that math, science, and history aren't important. They absolutely are, but they are only part of the whole. What about the rest? The educational system often overlooks essential skills for tackling what truly matters. Who teaches us to face uncertainty, to overcome failure, to build resilience? These lessons aren't on a blackboard. They need to be embedded in practice, in everyday life, in the moments when we learn to solve real problems. What can we do to change this reality? This is a question for all of us. Perhaps it's time to rethink the role of education in our society and to seek a model that's genuinely useful for the lives we want to lead. Because education should prepare us to be not only competent professionals, but whole individuals, capable of living and facing challenges with confidence and purpose. And now I ask you, do you feel that school prepared you for the life you're living today? Before, reflection on the meaning of life and personal fulfillment. And now, let's address a question that goes a bit beyond what we learn in classrooms. After all, why are we learning all of this? Is it just to get a diploma, land a job, pay the bills, and carry on like a well-tuned cog in a machine called society? Doesn't that feel a bit vague, maybe even empty? Who hasn't found themselves in the middle of the daily rush asking, is this really all there is? Is there something more, or is the meaning of life just a list of tasks to complete? Here, we start to reflect on something even more profound and universal. The true meaning of life. Let's talk about how to find personal fulfillment in a world that seems to thrive on expectations, shall we? We live in a society that often feels like a big stage where each of us has a role to play. These roles are neatly defined: a good job, a stable life, an ideal relationship. It's a standard that seems universal, but have you ever stopped to think about where it comes from? From an early age, we're programmed to associate happiness with external achievements, approval, status, success. It's as though we've been raised to constantly pursue something recognizable to others, as if true fulfillment only has value if it's applauded. But here's the irony. The more we chase after these achievements, the more that sense of emptiness seems to grow. And when we finally reach the top of our success ladder, whether it's a position, a title, or the ideal relationship, we often realize that the peace and satisfaction we expected to find are still out of reach. Instead of filling what was missing, these achievements become just another item on a long list of expectations. Some say this is just part of the human condition, but it's important to recognize how much of this frustration is tied to how society defines what makes a life of value. Why does success have to follow a single formula? It's as if there's an invisible line everyone is supposed to follow, and anyone who veers off is quickly seen as someone who hasn't made it. The truth, however, is that many of us have aspirations, talents, and dreams that don't fit into such a limited description. And that's where the anxiety begins. We know we want something more, but we're not sure what that is. The big issue is that we're always searching for validation. We look for something to tell us, you're on the right track. But what if life doesn't have a right track? The danger is that this search for approval leads us to believe we must fit into molds that deep down have nothing to do with who we truly are. Instead of exploring our genuine desires, we accept what's expected and live according to external pressures. So, where is the meaning in all of this? Maybe it's not out there, in achievements or external validations, but within us, in the ability to find satisfaction in who we are, regardless of what others think. Personal fulfillment doesn't come from an award or a trophy, but from a life that reflects what we truly value. This is a challenging reflection. It takes courage to break from the norms, to listen to what truly matters, and to redefine what it means to live a fulfilling life. The pressures will remain. Society will always have a new list of goals for us to pursue. But maybe true freedom and fulfillment lies in allowing ourselves to write our own script, one that even without applause still makes our hearts beat stronger. So before returning to daily goals and to-do lists, ask yourself, what truly makes sense to me? What genuinely fulfills me? Finding these answers may not be easy, but it's the only way to know that whatever path we choose, it's ours and aligned with who we really are. 5. Memories and influence of an inspiring teacher. And amid these reflections on the educational system and the search for life's meaning, a special figure comes to mind: Professor Rubens. It's funny how certain people cross our paths, and without us realizing it at the time, they leave a mark that stays with us forever. Maybe you too had someone like that. Someone who made you see the world differently, who showed you that the answers we seek aren't always found in books or formulas, but in how we choose to face life. Professor Rubens was exactly that kind of person. He wasn't your typical teacher with chalk and board. Rubens brought art and philosophy into the classroom as if he were carrying a lantern through a dark tunnel, illuminating places we didn't even know existed. He was the kind of person who explained complex ideas with a simplicity that made us wonder why we hadn't thought of them ourselves. For him, life was more than a sequence of classes and exams. He taught us what truly mattered, how to withstand hardship, how to find beauty and meaning even in the most challenging times. In his classes, Rubens shared passages from great philosophers and artists, and with a passion rarely seen, he showed us how these ideas transcended centuries because they spoke directly to the human condition. It was captivating to watch him link a Van Gogh painting to a reflection on perseverance, or use Camus' words to make us think about purpose in uncertain times. He didn't talk to us about winning at life. He talked about living life, about discovering what moves us, what makes us want to get up every morning. Rubens was more than just a teacher. He was someone who, with simple words, helped us realize that the world was much larger than the small space we occupied in it. And it's curious to think that while many teachers were focused on preparing us for exams, he focused on something much deeper, preparing us to face life and showing us that the knowledge that truly matters is the kind we can carry beyond the walls of school. In a way, this approach was an act of resistance. He knew he was going against a system that values grades over genuine learning, and perhaps that's why Rubens was a symbol of inspiration for us. He believed that even in a world pushing us to chase quick success and fast results, it's still worth pausing to appreciate the beauty of simple things and question what truly matters. And he did this with a rare gift. He showed us that learning wasn't just preparation for the future, but a meaningful experience in the present. When he spoke about a painting, a poem, or a philosophical theory, it wasn't just a lesson. It was an invitation to realize that, amid all the pressures and obligations, there's still room to find something beautiful and inspiring. Maybe, deep down, he knew that these lessons would resonate with us even many years later, when we'd be far from the classroom and facing our own dilemmas. And that's how I see Professor Rubin's legacy, a living reminder that true education is the kind that helps us face challenges with courage, cherish what really matters, and understand that there's always a way to find meaning, even in difficult times. So, if you too have had someone like this in your life, perhaps now is the time to rekindle those memories and let them inspire a fresh perspective. Because, as Professor Rubens taught us, sometimes it's in art and philosophy, in simplicity and resilience, that we find the strength to move forward and to create our own way of seeing and living in the world. Sometimes when we think of art, we imagine quiet museums or paintings hanging on untouchable walls. But for Van Gogh, art was much more than that. It was a refuge, a way to find light amid darkness. During years of struggling with personal crises and profound loneliness, he would pick up his brush as if grasping a lifeline, something that connected him to the world on a level he perhaps didn't fully understand. It's remarkable to think that, in a life marked by anguish and rejection, Van Gogh saw beauty where few dared to look. Golden wheat fields, the shimmer of stars at night, the faces of ordinary people, all of this transformed into explosions of color and intensity that expressed what words couldn't convey. For him, art wasn't just a technique, it was therapy, a way of wrestling with his own demons. Painting was an act of resistance, a way to find meaning in an existence that otherwise seemed unbearable. And here lies the power of art. It reminds us that even in our most fragile moments, we can still transform pain into something beautiful and meaningful. Van Gogh didn't hide his shadows. Instead, he brought them to the canvas, bearing his vulnerabilities for the world to see. In each brushstroke, he left a piece of himself, revealing a deep desire for others to see what he saw. That even in loneliness and sadness, there's something extraordinary in what may seem common or fleeting. This is why, when we look at his works, we feel we're in the presence of something greater. In Starry Night, for example, each star seems to pulse, as if trying to tell us that life, with all its difficulties, still holds a brilliant light waiting to be found. And maybe that's precisely the message Van Gogh left us, that even in the midst of pain, there is always a way to see the world with new eyes, to seek meaning where it seems absent. This idea of using art as therapy isn't exclusive to artists. Each of us, in our own way, has the opportunity to transform pain into growth, to find beauty in the everyday, no matter how challenging it may be. Like Van Gogh, we can look beyond appearances and recognize that sometimes the simplicity of a moment, the intensity of a color, or the stillness of a field is enough to remind us of what's essential. Perhaps the great gift Van Gogh left us is this capacity to face our own struggles and still seek something that lifts us up, that reconnects us with the beauty of life. Because, after all, it's in the ordinary, the fleeting, and the often overlooked that we can find meaning, peace, or at least an acceptance that, as Van Gogh showed us, the world is full of nuances waiting to be discovered. And somehow, it's this realization that gives us the strength to keep going. 7. The importance of focusing on the present. We live in a world that constantly pushes us toward the next step. There's always a goal to achieve, a future to plan for. And amid so many worries and expectations, we find ourselves balancing on a fine line between what hasn't happened yet and what's already in the past. But what about right now? How often do we stop to notice and appreciate what we have in this exact moment? Focusing on the present might be one of the greatest challenges of our time, but it's also one of the keys to a lighter, more fulfilling life. In a world where anxiety is so prevalent, fueled by information overload, the speed of change, and the pressure to constantly improve, learning to live in the now can be a powerful way to regain balance. The present is the only moment we truly have, the only concrete reality over which we have any control. The irony is that by focusing too much on the future, we lose touch with what really matters. We get trapped in what if and when I have. But what does that give us other than an endless list of expectations? Yes, it's important to have dreams and plans, but what if we discovered that the beauty of life lies in learning to appreciate the journey, not just the destination? The present is where life happens. It's in the small things, often unnoticed, that we find true peace. The breeze at sunset, the smell of coffee, the smile of a loved one. Moments like these ultimately become our most cherished memories. When we stop and truly connect with what surrounds us, we begin to see the beauty in things just as they are, without the need for change or improvement. And the most surprising thing is that the more we live in the present, the less we worry about the future. It's as though, rather than drowning in what if and when I have, we start to realize that genuine happiness is closer than we imagined. After all, the future is an illusion, something that doesn't yet exist, while the present is the only certainty we have. Cultivating this presence, this gratitude for what we have now, is a process that requires practice and patience. But over time, it teaches us to handle uncertainty more gracefully, accepting that we don't need all the answers and that all we truly have is the here and now. And perhaps, just perhaps, the secret to a fuller life lies exactly in this: learning to live with more awareness of what's already within reach, of what is, in this moment, enough. So why not take that pause right now? Breathe deeply, look around, and allow the present moment to become the center of your attention. Because in the end, it's in the present that life really happens, and if we're attentive, we can find a genuine peace that no other moment can offer. And, in the end, perhaps the greatest lesson is simple yet profound. The mere fact of existing is, in itself, something extraordinary. Amid all the pressures, questions, and quests, it's easy to forget the essential value of our presence here, now, living, feeling, and learning. Each of us carries a unique universe of experiences, dreams, and stories, and that alone is reason enough to celebrate. Even on days when everything feels meaningless, when life becomes a series of routines and responsibilities, the truth is that being here in this world is a rare privilege, because amid doubts and uncertainties, we still have the chance to experience, to grow, and to share moments that, at the core, make us human. For those who, like me, feel lost from time to time, and who hasn't felt this way, I want to share a message of hope and support. Knowing that you are not alone is powerful, and remembering that each day brings the possibility of discovering something new, no matter how small, is a way to renew our strength. Sometimes all it takes is a slight shift in perspective to recognize the value of what we have and the people who are part of our lives. So may we, even in uncertain moments, allow ourselves to value each instant. May we be kind to ourselves, recognizing that we don't need to have all the answers. After all, the beauty of life lies in its unpredictability, in unexpected opportunities, in simple moments that one day we'll look back on and realize were, in fact, the most important. And as we move forward, may we carry this sense of gratitude and presence. Because perhaps the meaning of life isn't in grand achievements, but in small moments, in genuine exchanges of glances, in the joy of simply being, with all the ups and downs, with all the questions and answers, with everything that is part of our existence. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. May each of us continue to find meaning and strength in the simple act of living, of existing. And may we always remember along this journey, being here is enough.